Just to begin, again, I want to thank you all for joining and spending your Wednesday night here with us. My name is John, and I am a gap year consultant here at EF Gap Year. Maybe I've spoken with you already. Maybe you've spoken with my colleagues. But today we're joined by two of our super fantastic alumni, Alyssa and Chandler, who are here to speak all about their gap program experiences. And this will be Q&A style, where we'll talk all about the experience from, pre-departure, during program, and then when they returned back home, talk about things like the gap year perceptions and how they felt impacted by this experience. Before we really dive into that, I just want to also give some context and some few things to know about me. I too was in your shoes pretty recently, or rather a couple years back. I am a gap year alum as well, and now I get to work with our students and families like you all every single day, just helping them figure out if a gap year is right for them. I'm also on the board of the Gap Year Association, which is a nonprofit entity that accredits all different gap year program providers as well as their alumni ambassador. So if it's not clear enough, I was immensely impacted by my own gap program and really believe in the transformative abilities of these gap programs. Alrighty, so to begin today, I want to tell you a bit about EF and who we are. And the first question I always get is, what does EF stand for? EF stands for Education First, and we are the world leader in educational travel. We've been doing it for around 60 years now, and in that time, we have sent millions of people to see new places, experience new cultures, learn new languages, or just discover new things about the world or about themselves. And you may know us already because we have worked with your high school, or I would probably bet you that if you don't know us, maybe a good friend in a different high school or family member probably does, because we are in almost every single high school and work with a lot of colleges as well to construct these educational travel opportunities. EF actually has over 52,000 staff in around 500 offices in 114 countries all around the world. And I like to flex that only because we only construct these itineraries with places that we physically have EF staff and presence in each one of these cities and locations. And in addition to what that global footprint allows us to provide, we also end up with a really unique perspective. And we are able to see firsthand just how the education landscape is starting to shift right in front of us. And that's really why we've built these programs, because we understand, like many of you all here today, that just what it takes to be happy and fulfilled and successful in today's modern world just looks a lot differently now than how it did only a handful of years ago. Also, we are coming to understand that real growth and learning can happen anywhere, not just within the four walls of a classroom or on a college campus or within a computer screen. These programs really are designed to help students and equip them, giving the space, the tools, the experiences, and more importantly, the confidence to just take on the world, getting themselves out of their comfort zones, allowing them to discover more about themselves, more about the world, and how those two things interact. Really coming home equipped to take on whatever may be next, whether that's college, whether that's a job, or maybe more travel. So now I'll get into a bit of the different programs themselves and how they're structured and how everything all works. So to begin, I'll start with the different lengths of program options that we have here. There are a variety of semester programs that we will get into. Again, this is just going to be a brief kind of painting broad strokes here on some of these programs. If you want to deep dive into the program specific stuff, tomorrow we're actually hosting an info session, which if you're not signed up already, just contact your gap year consultant to get the invite to that. Again, that'll be a great way to learn a little bit more. But again, just to give a general overall theme of how these programs are structured, and each one of the programs that we run and offer, the same theme kind of applies. Where in each one of the locations and cities that we travel to, we really want to make sure we are doing what that city, that culture, that community is known for. So obviously that will look different whether you're traveling through Europe or South America or Asia or Australia. But at the end of the day, students are looking for these experiences for the same kind of mindset. And I always like to say, despite Alyssa, myself, and Chandler here, who have gone on three very different programs, I really believe there's a similar common thread that binds just our experiences, despite how different they might look. So to get into the full gap year program, it's actually divided into two academic semesters: a fall semester, then we send the students back home for a winter break, and then a spring semester. Whereas the semester programs are able to just plug in, and they match the academic calendar with a fall departure and a spring departure. And I want you to also keep in mind that regardless of whatever EF gap program I'm speaking about, here are all the pieces that are included: all flights and transportation, all the activities and excursions on program, your accommodations, most meals, as well as the 24/7 EF Global Support Network and the mentorship. I'm just going to zoom in on that for a moment on this slide, because from this moment right now, all the way through to when you're actually out on the road, you're going to be having a whole team of amazing people surrounding you at all times. So, of course, you'll have the cohort of people that you travel with. These group sizes are around 20 to 25 other students between the ages of 18 to 22 across the United States. And these are your people. These are the ones that you're going to be traveling the world together, just creating those lifelong bonds and friendships that we'll hear more Alyssa and Chandler speak about. We also have the tour directors and the field directors. These are people who are really here to provide that local expertise knowledge embedded within the actual itinerary and program. We also have our EF Gap Year advisors. Again, these are people who operate in across North American time zones, who have daily communications with the tour directors and local guides, and also almost weekly, bi-weekly, monthly check-ins with the cohort of students as well. So for all the moms and dads here, if you want to know how little Jimmy is doing and he's not being super communicative, you can also go to the Gap Year advisor. Maybe I'm projecting. That is what my parents did. That's just how I was. Maybe you guys can plug in to what you relate. There also are student life coordinators. I like to compare this role. It's very similar to the role a RA plays in a college dorm, almost someone a little bit younger in age with the students, able to resonate, connect with them, maybe on a little bit deeper level, and also there to just help with group dynamics and any interpersonal issues that might be going on. So now I'll dive into a couple different semester programs that we are offering. And again, these are great for students who might be deferring one semester, might be graduating early, or were admitted into the spring semester for their college, or who just want to take a break before, during, or after their college experience. So here are three different programs that we're currently running. Again, you can see the different locations. We're really going to lean into what those cultures, those locations are really known for. So on the Changemaker, you're really diving into the diverse ecosystems of Latin America, really working with local communities to learn a little bit more about service and putting sustainability in action. The Pathfinder allows you to really travel across different cities and countries across Europe, really focusing on themes in each one, pulling together themes around environmental science, history, business, culture, art. It really is an immersive experience, pretty dynamic in that sense. And I like to say the Voyager is probably the marriage of the two, where it pulls together themes from the Pathfinder, but also has that service component as well within the Changemaker. And again, for any deep dive information on any one of these programs, definitely one, check out our website. Also speak to our Gap Year consultant or attend tomorrow night's info session as well. I also want to take a moment to speak about a pretty unique semester offering that we are launching or running as well. And these are our first semester abroad programs. And these are programs that we have created with universities, some of the top universities all across the country, where we sat down with different professors and created a curriculum that were to match this travel itinerary as well, to really facilitate these culturally immersive, but also international educational experiences that help to bring the learning in the classroom to life. So here are two of those programs that we are running. During the Mosaic of Spain program, you're going to be attending classes at EF's International Language Campus in Malaga, and then experience that curated curriculum at the University of Granada, particularly their Center for Modern Languages. And really, you're going to be exploring all of Spain's past, present, and future, but also going on some field excursions to, like I said, bring that learning to life in a lot of different cities. Some cool built-in weekend trips to Amsterdam, Morocco, and Madrid. You also take home 12 transferable college credits. Another really unique program that we have running is a program partnered with Colorado State University. And what's really cool about this program, this travels through Colorado, Costa Rica, Panama, and Mexico. And again, very similar frame of mind like the Mosaic of Spain program, but actually after completion of this CSU Global Challenge Semester program, you will receive an automatic acceptance into Colorado State University. You don't have to accept the acceptance, but it's just something nice to have in your tool belt if you are looking to kind of dip your toes into a lot of different subjects and have that college experience already. You do not need to enter the Common App or reapply. Just completing this program is sufficient to receive the acceptance into CSU. Okay, so now lastly, I'll just quickly touch on the full gap year program. It is 23 weeks long, so not 52 weeks abroad, and it's broken into 2 academic semesters like I have shown here. The first semester, we like to title it Guided Exploration. And really what that means is we want to give all of our students a real immersive, dynamic experience of traveling all across the world. So the first 6 weeks are actually spent in Europe, where each week you're in a new country. Immediately after the 6 weeks in Europe, we fly you to Australia to have another culturally immersive experience for those 3 weeks, then fly you immediately to Thailand to have another experience within those environments there. That's just semester 1. Then we fly the students back home, enjoy a winter break where you're free to do whatever you would normally do during a winter break, reconnect with family, friends, work, take college classes, again, whatever that you normally would do. And then we fly you back out for semester 2. And the reason it flows in this sense is semester 2 is meant to be a more culturally immersive experience where you should take what you have amassed and the skills you've garnered traveling across the world in semester 1 and bring it to life in one location of your choosing. And you have a couple different options here. You can either do an immersive language learning semester, which is actually what I did, and I did mine in Rome, but you can see some of the options that we have here, or you can do an international internship. And if you can see on the website, we actually purposely leave this intentionally vague, only because it's not like we have a list of 100 internships and we just tell students to choose one. It actually is a much more curated process where we sit one-on-one with every single student and unpack their goals, their motivations, what kind of work they like to do, what kind of work they have that bring fulfillment and achievement to them, and then match them with an international organization that helps that are most aligned with those goals. Again, this is based in Sweden, but this is only with English-speaking organizations, so you don't need to know a lick of Swedish in order to do this internship. Okay, so I know I just breezed through that, but I definitely want to save some time to speak with our special guests, Alyssa and Chandler. This is how all of the pricing and finances break down and all the different ways that you can handle the payments here. What I suggest as a next step is that you connect with your EF Gap Year consultant if you haven't already. If you have been, like in that case, keep that conversation going. But if you haven't connected with one of us just yet, we'll definitely be reaching out to you after this to follow up, to really dive into any one of these pieces that I touched upon. And again, we speak to thousands of students and families every single year. We really live and breathe this stuff. Just love helping families find the right path and the right program for them. So we really look forward to speaking with you and helping you take the first step on this journey. All right, enough of hearing about me. Alyssa, Chandler, if you guys can turn your mics and cameras back on. I am super excited to begin the conversation with both of them. Chandler, maybe we'll start with you. Would you mind just giving a quick rundown of like who you are, where you're from, and the program that you did?
Okay, so I'm Chandler. I'm from Blythewood, South Carolina, which is a super small town in South Carolina. And I did the Pathfinder program, which is kind of like a tour throughout Europe, and it was amazing.
Thanks, Chandler. Alyssa, same question to you. Who you are, where you're from, program that you
Yep.
did.
My name is Alyssa. I'm from New Jersey. And so shout out to all my Jersey people in the group chat. And so I did the Voyager semester this past fall.
Awesome. Thank you both. I'm going to stop my screen share just so everyone we can see each other and kind of can begin this conversation. I love to start these conversations kind of in this space, because we all did this, we know what it feels like to be in the audience's shoes right here. So maybe Chandler, we'll start with you again. Can you just give me a quick rundown when you were looking into your gap program? What did that process look like? What was the conversation like with your friends, family? Why did this even come up on your mind?
Yeah, so I was a freshman in college when COVID hit. So that kind of sideswiped everything that I had planned. I've always had a super big, large love of travel, and that's studying abroad was something that I was always like really into. But unfortunately, due to my like very difficult major in college and also COVID, it just never seemed like a good time. So one thing that was like always on my mind was like, okay, like when I graduate, I need to find something or like some way for me to do this before going into like working or going into grad school. So I started kind of digging and just searching online, trying to see what would fit best with me. And I found EF. And it made me feel like 10 times better because I had actually done an EF tour when I was in high school, and my family was like super, super, super supportive because they had gone on that tour with me as well. So it just seemed like the stars aligned, and I did my first kind of like consultation to see if it was like a fit for me, and it turned out that it was, and it just seemed like everything just fit perfectly.
Love that. Definitely dive in a little bit more on those pieces there. But also, listen, would love to just hear your perspective, because I know you had a little bit different of an experience than Chandler. So would you mind diving into that a little bit?
Absolutely. So similar to you, Chandler, I always wanted to travel, like from as long as I can remember. That was my dream. I didn't know how I was gonna make it happen, but I knew I would. For me, I got accepted into my dream school. I wanted to go there so bad. And then unfortunately, I think 2 weeks before I was supposed to move in, I found out that I could not get the funding for it. And so I was very disappointed, but I couldn't go, and it was too late. I had already rejected all the other schools saying that I was going to this one. Um, and so that was definitely disappointing. And then so I decided to start a new job just to give me some sort of fresh start after graduating high school. And then I was kind of bored, just sitting at home. All my friends were at school, having fun, making memories. And so on my Instagram, I would always get those little ads like showing me like the Voyager program or all their different programs. And then I would always check it out, and then I would exit out and kind of talk myself out of it sometimes because that seems crazy. Like, right? Just to go do that. How would I fund that? How would I that it didn't seem realistic. And then finally I gave in. I contacted an advisor, I got more information. At first I was like, how am I gonna pay for this? But I talked to my family and my friends, and they all told me that I could do it. And I didn't understand how I could, but I worked really hard. I saved up all the money for the tuition, and then I went, and it was definitely the best decision of my life.
Listen, that's an amazing story. And again, there's so many things that I'm like, what? How do we need to get into that a little bit. Also want to take a second to speak about me when I can. I kind of was in different positions to both Alyssa and Chandler myself. I um, had experience traveling very briefly. I actually come from an Italian family where my biggest um, gripe with my parents, who both grew up in Italy, was that they never taught me the language. And so I had like one specific goal, which is to learn Italian. That was like the one thing at the end of the day that I wanted to accomplish on my gap. So again, I spoke a little bit about it within the gap year. But again, I think just giving that context for everyone here, that despite the different, perspectives and places that we all were at, I think there are lots of different ways you can kind of accomplish your goals and motivations that you set out. So, okay, Alyssa, I kind of want to hone it in on a lot of the different pieces that you said there, specifically the conversation that you had with your friends and family. Was this something that like was around your like social sphere, like taking a gap semester? Like, do people do that around you? Like, what was that conversation like?
I would definitely say most likely not. I went to a very competitive high school, and so everybody was getting into like the Ivy Leagues, and so it was all about like getting into the top school. So I don't think anybody ever thought of taking like that gap semester or any kind of gap at all. But my friends knew me so well, my family knew me so well that I've been talking about traveling my whole life. So they all said, this is something you have to do. This is something you've always dreamed of, and you can make it happen.
which is a scary feeling. So kudos for you to kind of having the courage to kind of take that next step. Chandler, similar question to you, if in terms of like your social environment and the concept of a gap semester, a gap period of time. Like, is that something that a lot of people do around you, or how did you go about that?
It's not. And I think I have a unique perspective as well because a lot of people going into gap years, especially EF gap year, are leaving high school and I was leaving college. So you do all this work, you grind out the 4 years, and now it's like you need to get a job or you need to go to grad school or go to medical school. So when I started like telling my friends, like, oh, I think I'm not gonna go like straight through, they're like, what are you doing? Like, are you just going wild? I was like, no, this is something that I'm like super passionate about. So I feel like I should just follow my instinct and follow my heart and just do it. So my family was super supportive. Once I kind of got my friends to corral around me, they were super supportive as well. So yeah.
Awesome. Love that, Chandler. And I also like to recognize that like everyone's family and friends support network looks different, but I personally like to lean into that as much as possible because again, these are the people that know you best and always want the best for you. So in these conversations, as I speak with students and families, definitely leaning into those conversations, I think are super important to just better understand if this feels like a right fit for you. Okay. Chandler, going to keep going with you here in terms of let's fast forward a little bit from that pre-departure phase and maybe kind of ramp up towards like day one, day two. Can you tell me how you were feeling being in that position, getting on that flight, and like, the fact that you've now taken this step? What was that like?
I was so nervous. I'm really introverted, which a lot of people are surprised by. And I remember the night before I was talking to my parents. I was like, y'all, I'm nervous. I don't know why I signed up to do this. Why did y'all let me do this? And they were just like trying to pump me up and be like, okay, you're going to get on the flight. You're going to meet all these people. You're going to have so much fun. And I was like, yeah, like, okay. But once I got there, I felt like it just slowly like melted away. Like I had no issues making friends, which is something that I even like struggle with like growing up. So I don't know, it just felt like I was in the right place at the right time. And although I was nervous, I knew that like everything that was going to follow in the next 10 weeks was going to be like so amazing. So I don't know, it felt like I was on the right path. I just felt it that in that moment.
I totally agree with you on that piece. I know, I'm not sure how it looked or how you guys were, how communicative you both were, pre-departure. There are a whole series of like these pre-departure webinars and onboarding calls. Again, I was the most communicative student, so I went into my first flight not really knowing anyone, and having those nerves, and then I mean, I'm sure as you guys probably imagine, within the first couple of hours, the fact that everyone else is in that similar mindset and frame of mind just makes it that much easier. But I don't want to speak for you, Alyssa, but can you share like what your feelings were like, kind of day one, day two, and or maybe day -1 as well, and how that like ramped up?
Yes, especially day -1. I think I had like I kind of was in denial. Not like denial, but like it was just so exciting. It just again, I didn't really sink in that it was real for me. And then so the night before when I was trying to pack and like look through everything, I was like, "Oh my God, what am I doing?" Like I was with my friend, my best friend at the time. I was like, why would I do this? I don't know anybody here. I have no friends yet. Like, I didn't text anybody ahead of time. I panicked, but then she talked me down. She explained to me, this is what you want. This is what you've been dreaming of. Like, enjoy this. You've worked hard and you deserve this. And so I got there. I wouldn't say I made friends immediately. I'm also very introverted sometimes, especially when I don't have at least one person that I know. And since I feel like I made the mistake of not really reaching out to my people beforehand. And so I kind of walked in and I was in a really large group of 60, I think. So I just walked in, there's all these people. I was like the last flight to land, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. But slowly, I would say within like a week and a half, I became friends with everybody, and people are also in the same position as you too. And so even if they did talk to other people beforehand or they do know each other from somewhere else, it is okay. People can be compassionate and understanding for you because they're going through the same thing too.
Love that piece, and I totally relate to a lot of the pieces that you're saying there, specifically within that group size. I think in terms of like just how GAP programs are situated, it does feel like a bigger group. I mean, what's helpful is that you have your intimate group of 20 to 25 that you're traveling from start to finish with, but you're connected to this much larger kind of GAP network that you can, mingle and meet different people in as well, which, is good. And, or however people feel about that. Don't want to put words in their mouth, but like, that is the sense there that I feel is, interesting as well. Now maybe let's kind of move a little bit forward in terms of the timeline. Maybe like, um, you're now 20-30% in of the program, a little bit more comfortable. Can you walk me through those feelings? Maybe Alyssa, I'll keep going with you in terms of like, now you're kind of met some of your people. You got pretty close with your tour directors and your cohorts. Can you tell me like what like that like feeling looked like essentially in terms of just like getting a little bit more comfortable within the program and like when you started to find like your groove a little bit in the program?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like once you're 20-30% through, it almost feels like you've known these people forever. Because you wake up in the morning, you see them every day, you go to bed, you see them every night. And so when you spend so much time with people so closely every single day, it's hard not to get so close. And so you almost feel like you can't imagine a world when you didn't know these people before because they're your everyday. So I would say definitely completely comfortable. I think a lot of people were like in my group were at the same mindset around that time.
Appreciate that. Yeah. Chandler, can you chime in there as well in terms of like when you felt like things started clicking and finding your groove?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like about 20% in, like you're good to go. You're moving. I feel like maybe the first couple of weeks, like you're trying to get used to like constantly moving or like meeting all these new people. But by that time, like I feel like, especially in terms of relationships, everything's like expedited. So like she said, like people that you just met, like you can't imagine like not waking up with them next to you every day, which is like so weird. You're like, I've only known you for like 2.5 weeks. But yeah, like about that time, I feel like is when like you're kind of like at your peak where it's like, okay, like I'm having the best time of my life, like, oh my gosh. And from then it's just like straight up.
Love that. Now also in terms of like your cohort and the people you traveled with, I know personally, like I still plan like we do like gap reunions and road trips and different things here and there. I'm still really close and connected with people I traveled with, and I'm a couple of years removed from you all. But can you tell me a little bit more about like how those friendships look like? Chandler will keep running with you in terms of like how close did you feel like you got with those people on program, and what does it look like now as well?
Yeah, so close. Like I would say a lot of people that were on my gap year are some of my closest friends, which just sounds so crazy to hear, but it's really true. I was actually talking to some of my friends this past weekend over FaceTime, and we're planning a trip for me to come out to Las Vegas to go and visit them, which I'm super excited about. And then some of my friends from actually the other cohort that were like traveling with us, they're from Milwaukee. They're coming to my house for 4th of July. So I'm really excited about that too. So these are really strong relationships that I definitely see like panning out over years. One thing that I'll always say is that they're like the only people who like experience the same thing as me. So in some capacity, like you're always going to be close because of that really like tight shared experience. So I feel like whenever I see something that like reminds me of them or something that we did together like during the trip, I'm always like texting them or something like that.
I think it's funny because you're totally right. And I think, 99.99% of the entire world, doesn't do something like this. So it's a very small subset of the population who has these shared experiences. And again, despite us, I think having different experiences and going in different times, like I get that. And I think Alyssa, maybe you can chime in with some of your, if you hold that same sentiment, in terms of like what that connection feels like with friends on program.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I agree. I think when you spend, like I was saying before, when you spend that much time with people, it's hard not to get close to them. I know that I still talk to a lot of people too. Sometimes they'll text me and hit me up, but I have one best friend that I made from the trip, and she calls me every week and she catches me up. She's visited me a couple times since then because we're a little bit farther, but not too far. But it's just really great to be able to walk away with somebody who's you consider so close, that you wouldn't have met without being able to go on this trip.
Exactly. And I think it's funny too. You know, there's that saying where it's like, someone has studied abroad before because they tell you it. And I think that's like the same kind of a thing in terms of like a gap program. Like, I mean, immediately after my program, I couldn't wait to, share this news with as many people as I could. And, maybe there are different perspectives that are out there as well. Again, because such a small percentage of the population has the opportunity to put themselves through this sort of program. But I think that's just like important to recognize and share as well. Okay. Now let's lean towards the end of the gap, experience. And you guys both mentioned the feelings, the nerves, maybe you're also your own personality leading up to the program and also in the beginning. How did did that evolve? How did it evolve? How did it morph? How did you see yourself grow, if that? Alyssa, maybe we can keep it going with you and then tossing it to Chandler.
Yeah, absolutely. So, growth wise, I can just tell not just for myself, but everybody I was with, a lot of people became more confident in their own skin. You can kind of see how people come out of their shells. And I think just spending this time away from home, you were kind of forced to figure out how to do things yourself. Like if you're not feeling well, you tell your student life coordinator, they'll help you make a doctor's appointment. And then, usually we're used to our parents doing that. And then suddenly you have to do it yourself because your parents can't really do that from home. And so it just teaches you these life skills and everything. I mean, some people who came on the trip didn't know how to do laundry too. Nobody had ever taught them. I mean, I've been doing my laundry from a younger age, but it teaches you like being forced to do things for yourself, whether it's going to the store to get food for yourself or going to the doctor when you're not feeling well, doing your laundry when you're out of clothes. It forces you to realize about yourself that, hey, I can do this myself. I can take care of myself. I did this in a whole other country across the world by myself. And so when you come home, you don't feel like you need people as much. You're more independent and you can kind of trust that you've got yourself and that you can really do anything that you can set your mind to.
I kind of just want to record that and like post it to every single like social media channel we have. Chandler, can you share kind of your thoughts on that as well?
I 100% agree with everything Alyssa said. Like I said earlier, like I'm very naturally introverted, but I feel like I was kind of like transformed during this trip. I have always been very reliant on like my friends and family and like will always have one of them with me whenever I'm doing something. But now I always just do whatever I want because I navigated the world by myself essentially. I was even in New York a couple of weeks ago with my mom and we were going in opposite directions. She was like, "Are you sure you don't want me to ride the subway with you?" I was like, "No, if I can navigate the two by myself, I don't need you to follow me around." So I definitely feel like you become so confident and you just have so many life experiences that teach you so much about yourself. So even doing this is something I wouldn't normally have done like before this trip. So I definitely feel like I've just gained like a whole sense of like confidence that I never had before.
And I think to your point, like it definitely does meet you at the life stage you're at. And I think like, the Chandler who, let's say if you did do this, before college, maybe that wouldn't have been the right time for you. That this is like the opportunity. And I think how you apply those skills, um, I know personally, like going on an experience where you're traveling the entire world, for me, then entering college, that's like a piece of cake. Because if I could meet all these different cultures and people and travel with a group of people for however long, and then I just had to do this in college with, American students who had the same, middle school, high school, and now college, this kind of separation, I felt like I was propelled personally from my own, personal growth and my maturity and kind of how I handled myself in different situations. And I mean, I'm sure we can get into this as well. You have an idea of how this program is going to go, and then you completely scrap the idea away because there's such a roller coaster of emotion that goes your way. If there's a rain delay or something happens on program, or if you lose a pair of pants that you've always loved, right? Whatever it ends up happening, I think teaching you how to like navigate with those uncertainties is a super important skill. And whether that's applying to whether you apply it to college or even the workforce or whatever is next for you, I think um, everyone can agree like that is important stuff. Also, I'm just curious, maybe Chandler, I want to ask you this and we'll go to Alyssa too. Like, how did you navigate kind of the roller coaster of what this program just naturally feels like in terms of there are highs, there are lows, there's everything in between. What did that feel like for you?
Yeah, I just took a breath. I feel like in the moment it can be like a little bit overwhelming, but one, I feel like it's super important to just be honest and talk to your SLCs, talk to your tour advisor, talk to your friends on the trip because they're going through the same thing. And that's what's most important, I would say. And then also like lean back on like your support system back home. They're completely removed from it. So if you just need like a minute to rant or need a minute to just like completely debrief on everything that's like going on, that's what I always did. I always called my sister and be like, hey, like this is going on. I'm so stressed out, whatever. She'd be like, just go to sleep. And I would just go to sleep and then wake up on my free day and then just have a good time and explore. So I don't know. I feel like you just take it in strides and just like truly take deep breaths and just kind of like push through it.
Love that, Chandler. Alyssa, anything you would add on that?
Yeah, I would just say just kind of to build off of that or just to add to it, just day by day, honestly. I mean, I think the hardest thing you might realize on your gap is that sometimes not every day is going to be a great day. Sometimes not every day you're going to wake up in a good mood. Like sometimes you're going to wake up and you're going to be tired or you might not be feeling so great. And so I think sometimes at least I notice with myself and with others, sometimes people would get really upset because they're like, oh, I'm so tired. I just want to enjoy this moment. I'm in another country. I need to take advantage of this opportunity, but I'm just in a bad mood and I'm upset that I'm in a bad mood. It's like you'd hear that a lot on the trip. It's like, I'm upset that I'm in a bad mood. I just want to be happy. I'm at this great historical site right now and I'm not happy right now. But it's kind of learning to be like acceptance, like, okay, I'm not happy right now. I can't be happy for the 10 weeks that I'm on this trip. Sometimes I'm going to be tired, sometimes I'm going to be cranky. And it's just like that acceptance and also taking it day by day. It's nothing's like permanent. You're not going to be, maybe you're not going to be upset in an hour. Maybe you're not going to be upset in a day, but it won't last. It like sometimes I think I had one week where I was just kind of out of it and I was miserable because I was out of it. Like it just added to it. But it only lasted a week and I was happy like the whole rest of the 9 weeks of the trip, surprisingly. Most people had like, up, down, up, down. I was like up, 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 down, and then up again.
Yeah, I think again, those ebbs and flows are so natural and important to recognize as well. I also remember, and maybe this is giving too much information, but I remember like it was the first couple weeks when I was on program and felt like this cool, confident kid going into it. And I would probably have described myself as the more extroverted person who always put himself out there. And I actually remember a moment where I was FaceTiming my mom. I actually was like shaving my face in the bathroom, and she just said, "Oh, how you doing, sweetie?" And I don't know why when she said that, it like hit me at a moment where I needed it, and I was like, "Mom, I think I need a second right now," and I just had to let it out. And I think again, like those kind of like emotions and buildups. Again, didn't need to tell everyone here that I cried in front of my mom on program, but again, I think it's important to recognize that just in life, these things will happen, and it's important to learn. Well, how do you deal with it? Again, because you want to make the most of the GAP program, but also you want to make the most of your life and maybe the themes that you've learned, Alyssa, in the GAP program, you can probably extend it into when you have a bad day, at work or however long from now. So this is something that again we all know, but specifically, I think within the kind of nature of the program, because it is really dynamic, we understand that if this was go 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 every single day, it would lead to burnout and it would lead to the exhaustion that you were trying to escape before you were doing this. And so I think it's for everyone here to know, there are intentional free days built into the program to do the things like maybe I just need a day to just FaceTime my friends and family and watch Netflix and just chill. Or if you're someone who is just okay with that go go go, okay, let me use that entire free day to explore a different part of the city that I haven't gotten, and all things in between. And maybe we could touch on like how both of you utilized your free time, your free days on the program. Alyssa, maybe we'll start with you and throw it to Chandler.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for my free days, I tend to like kind of actually thrive for some reason, opposite in real life, but I thrived on go, go, go on the trip. So anytime I had a free day, I was like, okay, what are we doing? I know like in Japan we were there for the longest. So one day my friend was like, let's go to Tokyo Disneyland. So we took an Uber to Tokyo Disneyland and then another time we did like a little pig cafe and then they gave us like free drinks with it and we got to, sip on our hot chocolate or coffee, whatever, and then have pigs in our laps and it was so cute. So it's fun because no matter where you are, and I would also say this is my number one tip if you are looking for things to do. If you go on TikTok and if you look up like things to do and then you type in the city that you're in, you can usually find a lot of hidden gems that aren't as touristy as something you might Google online. And so then you can find a lot of fun things to do, and you can kind of make your own little itinerary for your days off, and it's super fun.
I totally agree with that, Alyssa. Chandler, curious to hear how you handled it on your program. Was it something that you, again, I'll leave the question for you. Was it a little bit more open-ended, or did you have like structure to what you wanted to do during your free time?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought this up actually, because I feel like that's the beauty of this whole experience that you kind of just make it your own. So I know our first stop was Iceland, and I think by the time we got to our first free day in Iceland, I was like completely wiped out. And I remember calling my dad and just like being so sad. I was like, oh my God, I'm so tired. And he was like, well, this is your free day, so just go to sleep. So I remember just literally knocking out all day. And then I woke up and like did laundry, then like went right back to sleep. And I felt so rejuvenated after that day. And I feel like it was just like just such an amazing decision, because a lot of my friends had like gone and done like a bunch of stuff, and I just knew that just like wasn't going to work for me. So I'm so glad I was able to like catch up on Netflix, text my friends from home, call my sister, like little things like that. And I know later on in the trip, I utilized those free days to like the best of my abilities, because by that time I was like feeling really good. So I know I went to Disneyland Paris. I went to different countries on my free days. I was just like living my life. So I definitely feel like those free days are great, because when you need it, you really need it, but also just gives you opportunities to explore things that like aren't associated with the program. So I really enjoy my free days. I feel like those were one of like the best parts of the trip.
I love to hear that. I think that's awesome. Also, I do now want to just encourage everyone in the audience here, definitely utilize the Q&A chat if there's anything that you want specifically answered by myself, Chandler, or Alyssa. But so as we process those questions, I also want to maybe leave some like final thoughts for people here who are in the shoes of like, okay, well, maybe they're hearing about this program for the first time, or maybe they're in the middle of the conversation, or maybe they're like right along that crossing that finish line on if this is something they want to do. Is there any specific advice or tips or just things you would want them to know, or that you want to tell them being in that current frame of mind? And Chandler, maybe begin with you and end with Alyssa.
Yeah, I say go for it. I know I said earlier that I was like bawling my eyes out the night before and so nervous and like questioning why I even decided to do this. But I just feel like it's provided so many opportunities. Like even I'm going to grad school soon, and it's something that I talked about like extensively in my applications and my essays. And I feel like we mentioned earlier, it's a very unique experience, and I think that probably also helped me out in my application. So I just feel like it's something that looking back, you'll never regret that you did it. You'll only regret that you didn't do it. So
Okay, that we're definitely recording as well. Okay, we screenshot that. That's the same question to you there.
So I would say, I mean, I know obviously I'm going to tell you guys, do it because I loved it. We all loved it. That's why we're here, is because we loved it so much. But I also just want you guys to think about how you may not realize it now, but it's a really great opportunity. It's a great way to see the world in a way that's structured if you're nervous to go completely by yourself. This way you're with a tour group, you're with a tour guide who knows the area, can tell you what area is good, what areas maybe to stay away from. Usually we don't really go to, places like that, obviously, but still they'll tell you, they can also give you really great recommendations and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of why I chose it, so to say, was because I wanted something that was structured but had a good balance of freedom as well, like those free days where you get to do whatever you please. Um, so I would definitely say if you're looking for something that's got a really great balance between structure and freedom, this is definitely a great decision for you.
Appreciate that, Alyssa. I think that segues nicely into the question that was just asked in the chat in terms of the amount of free time versus structured activities. And again, just a healthy model that I'll probably give in answering that question is within a 7-day window of time, that doesn't mimic the actual week where your weekends are the days off. There are always or at least try to be 2 days free and 5 days on. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be Saturday, Sunday. It could be Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or however that ends up shaking out. But also, if you have a morning, again, this is context for everyone here. If there is a morning excursion or activity from 10 to 2, then you have the rest of the day entirely free for yourself as well. So that isn't it a free day, but you have that entire free time to again talk about pieces there. And again, for the more like specific nuances to logistical information on program, definitely would defer that to a conversation with the gap year consultant or even tomorrow night's info session as well. And then I see another question that was asked. What would be a reason that someone would not be accepted into the program? Again, I'll probably just take this one away. In terms of, in order to physically enroll in this program, you need to be at least 18. You need to have a U.S. passport, U.S. citizenship. But also, in order to actually enroll in this program, you need to have a conversation with someone like myself, unpacking those goals and motivations within this program. Again, if Chandler told me the only reason she wanted to go to Germany was to go to the nightclubs in Berlin, then probably we wouldn't love that answer, right? And those are some of the goals and things that I'm talking about. And again, those nuances we can get into. And maybe Alyssa, a question for you specifically in the Q&A in terms of how long it probably took you to like save up for the trip. Are you comfortable kind of sharing what that process
Yeah.
looked like for you?
Absolutely. So I would say, of course, it's going to depend on where you work, how much you're making, stuff like that. But for me, I would say it didn't take me as long as I thought because I kind of put myself on a time constraint. So I had decided like February last year that I wanted to do this. And I was like, I'm not sitting around for another year. I can't go on the spring semester. I have to go immediately. So I was like, I have to go in fall. And my mom really firmly believed that I could do it, even though I was like, I don't think that sounds possible. I did have some college savings aside that I used that for on top of that, but there's also monthly installments, which made it easier for me. So I was able to take my paychecks that I was making plus a little bit from my savings every month to cover the cost of that. And so I paid that off, I think, up until August, and then we left September. So that's why that was doable for me. So from February to or actually, no, I think I didn't make my first payment till April. So April to August is how long it took me to gather the money for that.
Love that, Alyssa. And I think also for context here, we work with tons of different families and students in terms of like how we want to construct the payment plan, and we can do it. I've worked with students who've done it for 2 years, in the future, or also, much smaller than that as well. A question was asked on how intense are the language classes? How much studying do we need to know? So again, I came from an Italian background. There are different levels of placement levels that you would test into on day one. You can start at the super foundational level, A1, or it goes A1, A2, B1, B2, and so on and so forth. You can kind of hop into whatever level that you feel most comfortable with, and then kind of start that ramp up. And in terms of how the language classes look, it's going to look tremendously different than maybe every other language class you took in your entire life, in the sense where it's not like you have a list of 100 vocabulary words and we tell you to memorize it, test tomorrow, rinse and repeat. And I say that because it's a much more conversational way of learning, in the sense where like one class that comes to mind actually that I did is in a theme that was centered around like cooking and food related vocabulary. The teacher actually, the instructor, set us up with individual tiramisu, which is like a famous Italian like pastry cake thing, like cooking stations. And she was teaching us how to make tiramisu, and that was totally in Italian. And that was the way, if you guys are understanding the picture I'm trying to illustrate here, that is kind of the model of the language learning as well. I also see a question that was asked on the inclusivity of the groups of kids on this program. So I think one thing that I want to say is EF Gap Year, we wholeheartedly commit that all students should have this opportunity, and we will never turn someone away for whatever identity that they identify as. And we definitely want to encourage them to take on these opportunities if, again, it feels like a comfortable, right fit. And obviously, we wouldn't want to throw someone too far in the deep end where they wouldn't be able to swim. But I think a healthy spot where you're trudging water a little bit, in that times of uncomfort is really where you kind of grow the most. Getting out of your comfort zone. Unfortunately, that's kind of just how the world works. Is the best way to grow at the end of the day. So I guess that is kind of the answer I'd give on that question there.
Yeah, if I may add to, I would just also like to say if this is coming from a parent too or a student, doesn't matter. We have student life coordinators there, or sometimes we'll call them SLCs, which is short for. They are great. They pay so much attention to every single kid there that if anybody ever seems to be kind of quiet or not like too quiet, but if they seem lonely or like they're not socializing at the same rate as other people, even if that student does not express concern to the SLC, they will still check in on them. And so they'll make sure that they are included, that they're supported, and then they will talk to them and see what we need to do to make the environment more comfortable.
Love that response. Thank you for that. And then there was another question I was asked. Alyssa, since you went on the gap semester, did that make you rethink what you wanted to study? Or did it make you rethink what you wanted to study?
So I really wanted to go to an art school. That was the school I originally was planning on. But then afterwards, since I realized that that wasn't financially doable for me, it still really isn't, because art schools are crazy expensive. But so I would say I went on this no, I didn't solely go on this gap just because I wanted to learn what to do or I was looking for a path, but I was also kind of looking for a path. I was hoping that by going on this trip, I would do an activity or something that would kind of spark um, some kind of inspiration. And actually, since I've been back, I switched from like my job, I was a receptionist. I kind of just did that to make some money, but not because that's not what I wanted to do. And I realized that I've always thought about going into education. So I was able to apply to my old middle elementary school. So it's pre-K to 8. And I got the job. I work there now, and I'm looking to start my local community college online. And so then that way I can work there next year. I could work at the school that I'm at. I work with special needs kids. I'm a paraprofessional. And then I can also complete coursework. I still don't really know exactly what I want to do, but I'm starting more generalized. I did talk really highly of the SLCs. That is my dream job, but not yet. So, it's going to take some time to get there, but for now, I'm exploring other options.
Love that, Alyssa. Thank you. Chandler, I kind of want to hone in on maybe, was there a way that this program influenced your own personal interests, whether that applied directly to what you're studying in grad school or just, life interests in general?
Yeah, so I've always been extremely passionate about the healthcare field. I got my degree in biology from Clemson University, and I was on the pre-med track. So I guess the next step would have been medical school, but I've decided to go to grad school for medical school, and I'm getting my master's in public health with a global concentration at Columbia University starting in the fall. So I'm super, super, super excited about that, and I feel like what gave me that push to go in the global kind of sect of healthcare is this trip, and just reiterated that passion for global travel, but also just helping people in other communities, not just my own. So yeah, I'm super excited about that.
Such awesome stories, both of you. Again, I'm super, super grateful for both of you to share your experiences, share your time with everyone here today. I think that kind of rounds out where we're at with tonight. I want to make sure everyone has the opportunity to eat dinner and go to sleep at a reasonable time. But again, massive, massive thank you, Alyssa, Chandler. You guys are amazing, incredible. Love to hearing your stories. Again, if there is anything here with anyone here who wants to dive a little bit deeper into any one of these stories or any one of these programs and the specific nuances, definitely feel free to reach out to your gap year consultant. We'll be able to facilitate a lot of these communications as well. So on that note, I will say goodbye to both of you. Enjoy your night, and we will talk very, very soon. Take care, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.